more interested in social stuff. Right, that's it. Yeah,
I'm Green.
Nice to meet you, Emily.
Joe, you know,
Nice to meet you, Joe.
Or Ray.
I think I met Steve.
You can't miss her.
Do you want me to take my rap? That's for the rap?
Are we going to say anything about fandom? No. Just something about
Just say, hi, my name's Christina Haggerty. I'm a 9th grader at Jerry Bodley High School. There's no excuse for mistakes committed anywhere, especially in Fulton Square's park. Confusing or destruction of our parks has never been and never will be funny in any way. There is no... I'm screwed.
I can't read it.
I haven't read this in a year. I wrote this so many ago.
Very sorry.
Well, welcome, everybody. First off, I want to thank Jerry Hogan for inviting me, everyone for inviting me. It is always a pleasure to come up here to Fulton. In the 6 years that I've been covering Central New York, I've come to know Fulton as really one of the most dedicated communities around, and what I think you all should be so proud of is that you're so concerned about making this a better place constantly. So anytime I'm asked to help out up here, it is really absolutely my pleasure to come up and assist you. In doing some research for tonight's topic, I came across a couple articles on the web, and the most interesting thing I saw was a number saying that vandalism across the country costs businesses, schools, and local governments $10 billion a year across the country to clean this stuff up and everything else. So needless to say, this is an enormous problem that affects every community in this country, and it's good to see that you're all here to try and talk about that a little. We have a few speakers to start things out, and with that, we'll get to them. First off, Emily Green, Joe Clark, and Christina Haggerty. Christina, you want to get things started?
Mistakes. We all make them. If we're really lucky, then sometimes an eraser can do the trick. Simply rub it across the page, and that's left, and all that's left of our careless mess is a hardly noticeable smudge. However, some mistakes just cannot be erased. Vandalism is becoming a big mistake in the city of Fulton. Our beautiful parks are being destroyed, and unfortunately, we are beginning to learn that life doesn't come with erasers.
Once something happens, there is no way to take it back or make it not happen. Vandalism is defined by Webster as a malicious defacement or destruction of public or private property. Recently, some of Fulton's parks have faced extreme devastation because of improper use of the property. To plan, build, and maintain a park in Fulton requires a countless amount of time, funding, and construction. After an intricate process that makes years to complete, a park is finished and ready to use and enjoyed by the public. Fulton's parks are certainly a precious asset to the community. We, as parents, must teach our children to respect the property of others. We, as teachers, must explain to our students that we share ownership of the city parks. City employees are merely our stewards entrusted with the responsibility of taking care of it for us. We, as teenagers, must let our peers know that it is not cool, not fun, and not funny to vandalize our parks, so that our younger siblings may not enjoy the same recreational opportunities that we had.
We as a community must take pride in the abundant natural resources that Fulton has to offer. There is no excuse for active vandalism in the community anywhere, especially in Fulton's gorgeous parks. The defacement or destruction of the parks has never been, nor never will, be funny. Sincerely, Teresa Evans, Emily Green, Ashley Bartlett, Joe Clark, Christina Haggerty, Hillary Marks, Liz Beasley, Paul Kurtzman, Janet Robber, Jim Smiley, Kathy O'Brien, Jeff Hodge, Mariel Allerton, Bob Weston, Sandy Weston, Betsy Sherman Saunders, Jeff Hodge, the Neighborhood Advisory Council Work Plan Task Force, Community Vision 2005, and Fulton's Vandalism Prevention Team.
Christina tells me, by the way, she wants to be a reporter. I told her to get out while she still can. Up next, Bill Price, a guy who is intimately involved in dealing with vandalism, unfortunately. Bill is the manager for Buildings, Grounds, and Security for the Fulton Schools. Bill?
Thank you. Is this on? Can everybody hear me?
Sounds like it.
Okay. First off, I'd like to thank everyone for coming and for the opportunity to speak this evening. When the school district looks at vandalism, we actually look at it from two different perspectives. One is internal to the school, and one is external to the school, meaning it happens on school property. When we look at internal to the school, I'm real proud to say that we don't have a lot of that. We have some very great kids that help us take care of the schools, okay? And you should be proud of that. Other districts have a lot of problems inside of the schools, and we really don't. Yes, we do have some things once in a while that get broken. We have some things that, some small graffiti. We have some lockers that get things written on once in a while, but we really don't have a lot of that. And I think that's great. I really do. When we look at external, we have to look at something that happens on school property, and we also have to look at when it happens and why it happens and who could possibly have done it. Again, internally we look at students. Externally, it could be anybody. It doesn't have to be someone in our community. It could be someone from another community, or it could be just different things that happen. We don't have a lot of that, but that's really where our main problem lies. We have windows that are broken, and I'm not talking about the baseball that happens to sail through. I'm talking about picking up the trash can outside and throwing it through a window. That happens. We have one of our biggest real concerns now are our lawns. We have people that in the middle of the night just decide to take a joyride through the lawns, and it causes a lot of damage. Okay? That right now is probably one of our biggest ones. Some of the concerns that I've seen, we've had at our athletic complex, for instance, that's been broken into. We've had vending machines that have been tipped upside down. We've had fences that have been ran into by vehicles. But all this, again, is something that's external and is very difficult. In working, even with the local police department, it's very difficult to find these people that do this. So it's nice that internally we're fine. It's not so nice that externally we still have some problems that we have to deal with. We also have problems in our playground areas. Lots of times we end up with what I call party at the playground. It's where people get together and they party in the middle of the night, and we end up with all the trash that's left over, including glass the glass gets worked into the sand in the playground, and the next thing you know, we've got some students out there that are playing, and we have to be real careful and check our playgrounds so that that doesn't happen, and if it does happen, we get to fix it and clean it up before the students get there. Another concern that I have is, in the past, we've had some roof problems where people tend to get on the roof. And when they get on the roof, I'm not sure really why they're up there, but they get up there, and that's a concern for us because in just being on the roof, you can cause some damage. And so those are the things that we look at. We've also had vehicle damage. Students' cars being vandalized during the day. We've had some staff cars that have been vandalized. And probably the biggest one that we've had in a long time is when in this past fall when we had a custodian's car. Actually, 2 vehicles were damaged in the middle of the night and one actually caught on fire. That's probably the biggest one that we've had as far as money-wise or cost-wise. But again, was it related to the school? We'll probably never know. You know, we just don't know. It happened in the middle of the night at the school, but it may not be school-related. But it was vandalism. Another thing we have to look at is what's a prank and what's vandalism. And sometimes we have pranks which are still vandalism, but they're done, I think, in a different light. For instance, last June at the high school, where we ended up with some for sale signs out in front the last week of school. You know, that's a prank. Can we condone it? No, because there were some things that were taken. But to be honest with you, it looked pretty funny with the for sale signs out in front of the school. We had an incident also where we had the class of 2001 burned into the middle of the football field. I believe that was a prank. It caused some damage, yes, but still, it's not like some of the things that you read about or see, you know, on TV. Another one, which this one's really got me stumped. Over at our high school, we have a sign out in front that says G. Ray Bodley High School. And for some reason, we have now placed 3 letter C's on that sign. And every time we put one up, it turns up missing again, and it's always the letter C. So if anybody knows somebody who has a last name that starts with C and a first name that starts with C and their middle name starts with C and they're on the front of their house and they're red, would you let me know, please? Because I'd like to find out who's taking those C's. The last thing is that I just want you to know that when we do have a problem, where we've had some damage, and we can find out who's committed that crime, there is restitution made. And we have had a couple of cases where we have found the people that have done the things that they shouldn't have done, and they have reimbursed the school district for the damage. So we try to do that because I think we need to teach a lesson. But all in all, as far as the district goes, we really do not have a lot internal. We do have a lot external, but I think that's just comes with the times. Any questions? Thank you.
Our next speaker is the reason I'm not sitting down tonight. He notified me that these chairs are $900, so I don't want to destroy anything myself up here. Become the subject of the next community forum. The Honorable Spencer Luddington.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the admirable mission of the Community Vision 2005 and the Community Task Force in their efforts here. Certainly, Mayor Giuliani didn't invent it, but he really implemented the theory of starting from the ground up and he probably made it the most famous, and it's something I think that fortunately it seems this group is advocating. And essentially it begins with picking up gum wrappers and litter and getting, helping the homeless get into shelters and cleaning up the streets and cleaning up the graffiti and cleaning up the vandalism and essentially making the city look attractive. And the net result, allegedly, and the studies show that there is an effect on more serious offenses. And I think when the people concentrate on eliminating graffiti-type vandalism, other acts of vandalism, and so forth, that there's a net effect of helping people be more positive about their community. And so I think it's a great idea that forums like this occur, and I think it's great that the kids are getting involved, because I've noticed when I was a kid, we didn't have these things, and it seems like Fulton is really on the front burner on attacking, addressing, and resolving these issues. And essentially what it'll make is our quality of life will be vastly improved if we all work as a group to eliminate these problems. And I really think that things are looking great, and I think that if we practice what we preach and talk about, that there will be a successful result. And I've seen it in the centennial plans, the recreation park program, and I think I see it also over at Voorhees Park. We know it as Seaside Park. But I think that if we work to improve these areas, improve the outlook of the city-owned properties and so on, then that result will people will clean up their own properties. In my own neighborhood, we concentrate at my own home and to try to make improvements and at least make it look nice. And as the more we do, it seems that the neighbors do a little more. And I've heard other people claim this too. And so really hopefully there's some ripple effect, a domino effect, that there'll be some positive result, and I'm quite confident that there will be. I want to mention to Mr. Price that the C's that are missing from the sign are probably on my report card, because I got a lot of those, more than 3 though. So, but the court's role essentially is to address an attempt to eliminate recidivism or repeat offending, and the canons of ethics prevent me really from addressing specifics, but generally the effort is to hopefully create a sanction in which the offender, if proven to be at fault under the standards of the law, is to hopefully instill the notion that this conduct is not to be condoned. And so that's generally the court's role, to assure that perhaps there's some answer to the cause, and that the future acts of any particular individual are turned around, for lack of better explanation. And that hopefully the ability to restore the community into the place it found itself prior to any particular alleged bad act, either through the cure of the fault or perhaps through some payment of restitution. And other than those vague explanations, I'm not permitted really to address what I could or would do. But I applaud your efforts, and I think that it's really a wonderful first step, because I think that if these concerns are addressed and attacked, that more serious offenses might less likely occur, and that it would just be a better place for all of us. And I appreciate you inviting me to come.
Bill, if there are any D's missing, those are probably mine. So, Kelly Otis is a probation officer. Kelly?
When I first started on the task force and with the subcommittee, one of the things that we have some high school kids who you've met had talked about was the fact that if you were under 16, nothing would happen, and so it was okay. You could go and do whatever you wanted, and there wouldn't be any kind of ramifications for that. And I was just like, what? That's my job, you know? So I wanted to tell you a little bit about what actually can happen if somebody under the age of 16 gets involved in vandalism and has a problem in that area. If they're caught by the police, they can be charged as what they call as a juvenile delinquent. That's somebody between the ages of 7 and 15 who commits an act that if it were committed by somebody 16 or over, it would be considered a crime. So that goes for, you know, petty larceny, grand larceny, any of those kinds of things. They're all classified as a juvenile delinquent. For vandalism kinds of acts, those are usually like a criminal mischief or making graffiti. Judge, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think I have it, though. I think I'm doing okay. The child's given an appearance ticket, and then they have to have contact with the probation officer. When they come in, the officer, the child, the victim, and the child's parent gets to decide, do they want this to go through a voluntary program called probation intake, or do they want it to go to family courts? If they go through intake, they have to admit that they actually did what they were charged with. That the intake program is 2 to 4 months, and the child's expected to do well not only in the community where they had the problem, but also at home and in school. Also, they have to do community service, and they would have to pay back any money to the victims. If at any time during the intake process, if that child's not cooperating, then they can go into family court. If they go to family court, they can be placed on probation for up to 2 years, and they're given conditions by the court that they have to follow. This also includes community service and restitution. So again, you know, just in a general sense, those are things that can happen if you're between the ages of 7 and 15 and get involved with any kind of vandalism.
Thank you, Kelly. Jeff Hodge is with the Quick Response Team. Jeff?
When vandals strike, the damage should be cleaned up within a week. It has been proven that if graffiti and other vandalism remains for a longer period of time, it attracts more vandalism or graffiti. As the Quick Response Team, we are dedicated to repairing vandalism as it occurs in our public parks and places. Our purpose is to respond quickly to acts of vandalism and send a clear message to vandals that vandalism is not acceptable behavior in our community. One of the ironies about establishing the Quick Response Team is we quickly found out that developing it was neither quick nor was it easy. It's been about 9 months since we started developing the vandalism prevention team and working on our quick response. And in our enthusiasm, we quickly went out and asked people for donations of materials, donations of labor. And what we found out very quickly as we had our first response was to clean up a building in the city was that since we are not a city entity, and even though I am affiliated with the Community Development Agency, we don't have those resources to bring to bear. We are a grassroots community organization, and we don't have storage facilities for materials. We don't have a great large network of people to draw from. So what we have done, we made 2 very quick mistakes in the very beginning. One was that we realized as we developed our team that we were really going to focus on public properties and the graffiti and the vandalism that occurs to the public properties. And we had some vandalism on private property. And we didn't have a policy on how to deal with private property, so we've certainly amended that and understand that we cannot meet some of the limitations of private property. The second one was we had a very generous donation from a company for some materials, but we needed to meet some storage requirements, and there were some other things that we couldn't do with transportation, and we've had to turn that down. And before we even got out of the gate, we're offending people, we're making a few mistakes, but what we feel we've done is it really has made us a little bit stronger as we are now realizing what some of these limitations are when volunteers take some of these things on. We've developed what we think is a very strong policy, and today as we are here as part of the forum, we are regrouping stronger than ever with this positive sense that we really want to address the vandalism in our community. And we invite everyone here and anyone who sees this on television to respond in several ways. We are asking for people to volunteer to be on the quick response team and work with us in policy and planning, and we meet on a pretty regular basis. We are asking for people who are interested in volunteering time on an as-needed basis, so that when we are called, our quick response belief is that within a week we'd like to address any vandalism that occurs. And we have a network, and we make those calls, and we all get together and we fix that vandalism. We're asking for donations of money so that we can purchase materials as we need them. We're asking companies that if they can give us an account at their business, and then we can purchase the paint or the lumber or the glass or whatever is needed to address the problem as it occurs. Because we realize that it's going to take the entire community to address vandalism, and we really feel that quick response is our first response, and having people understand that vandalism cannot and will not occur in our community for much longer. Anyone who is interested may call 593-1397 to sign up with the QRT today.
We have a performance now from QRT.
There's a story about a boy and his name is Jeff Hodge. He lived by the park, it was close to his garage. He liked this park, he thought it was cool. He went there in the summer cause he had no pool.
There's a gang nearby and they weren't no good. He stayed away from them as much as he could. This gang liked to vandalize, so they weren't idolized. They had left a mark all over town. Made the mayor just want to frown. He had an idea, oh yes he did, when he thought he didn't kid.
I'll make a team, yes I will. Oh, it will be such a thrill. They will clean up this vandalism, maybe do it with a rhythm. What should I call this team? I need a name that'll gleam. Hey, I know!
The Quick Response Team. So the team was formed and they transformed Fulton's neighborhoods, and they weren't bored. The park behind Jeff was never vandalized, because if it was, QRT was there to clean up vandalism without despair. So if you see something vandalized, boy, you better recognize that QRT will be there for inspection and repair. Word. My name is Joe Clark, and I'm a 9th grader at Jerry Bodley High School, and I'm also leader of Community Vision 2005.
I'm Christina Haggerty. I'm a 9th grader at Jerry Bodley High School, and I'm a member of Community Vision 2005.
I'm Emily Green. I'm also a 9th grader at Jerry Bodley. I am with Community Vision 2005, and I am the leader of the animal control team.
And I'm Jeff Glore, and I cannot rap. You guys breakdance too, or what? Yeah. All right. I haven't seen that in a while. It's time for a question and answer, where you all in the audience get to get involved. You can direct a question to us, and I can hopefully refer it to somebody who I think might be able to answer it the best up here on our panel, whether that's the students or anybody up here. So, shoot. Jerry.
Kelly, you're talking about punishment for individuals under 15. What happens to individuals over that age? What do they go through? Explain that a little bit, put that out there.
I can. I would defer to the judge, though. I don't know.
Well, there's a process. I mean, I guess there would either be an arrest or appearance ticket issued, and the defendant would be arraigned. Not guilty plea would be entered. Opportunity to obtain counsel counsel of their choice, or if they cannot afford to hire an attorney will be appointed to represent them. And then the criminal justice system would afford that individual his or her particular rights, and the district attorney's office would elect in which how they would proceed in terms of prosecution. And of course, the people would be required to prove the guilt of the defendant beyond a reasonable doubt. And we would either have, depending on the nature of the offense, either a non-jury or jury trial ultimately, if the case is not resolved to the satisfaction of the parties.
What would be punishment? Jail time? How much?
Well, I can't address what potential sentence there might be, but it would certainly depend on what the legislature has determined to be an appropriate offense, and they essentially tell me what the parameters of the sentencing are, and if it were a Class A misdemeanor, anything from conditional discharge, unconditional discharge, fine, probation, or up to a year in jail. B misdemeanor is anywhere from unconditional discharge, conditional discharge, 1 year probation, or potentially 6 months in jail, and that depends on their age as well. So there's a plethora, a variety of potential sanctions but it'll ultimately depend on the nature of the offense.
I want to ask the students, they're in the middle of this all the time at ground zero per se. Joe, let me ask you, when you're in school, what do you see as the biggest issue when it comes to vandalism?
At school, a lot of the people don't really talk about vandalism. Well, some do, which gets them in trouble. But on the fact of ground zero, I'm not really in with that crowd.
What bugs you? I mean, when you is it writing in bathrooms, writing outside walls of the school? What bothers you?
I think any kind of vandalism bugs me because it makes no sense to make your community look bad that you live in.
Anybody else? Christina, you want to take that question?
I don't think there's as much vandalism at our school as there is at maybe at other schools. I know at like the junior high, people are like in the middle, like they're not accepted by like kindergarten through 6th graders because they're too old, but they're not accepted by the junior high or the high school kids because they're not as old as like we are. I think that at the junior high, there's a lot more vandalism that there is in the high school because they're trying to fit in, they're trying to be cool, but what they don't know is that there's a lot of people that actually in high school you get some common sense and you know that there's you know kind of better, like in a better perspective, what's right and wrong than you do when you're not accepted by people, I think, maybe.
Kelly, the kids that you deal with, what works? What keeps them from doing something like this again?
Well, I think a lot of different things, and it certainly depends. But I think certainly the community service, getting out there and kind of giving back to the community, and one of the things that we're going to try to do is involve those kids with the quick response team and have them actually do some cleaning up of the community in Fulton, which I think will be really good. When they have to pay back the money, sometimes that doesn't work so much because usually the parents are the ones that end up paying it, not the kids. The fact that they have somebody on their back and keeping an eye on them, I think that helps. I think growing and maturing, as Christina said, helps. And trying to get them involved in something that's more positive in the community, like sports or activities, things like that. I always push any of the kids that I work with to get involved in sports or any other activities, anything, so they're not just hanging around being bored doing foolish things.
Why do they do it in the first place?
Because they're bored and they do stupid things. I'm not a psychologist, so I wouldn't be able to tell you specifically. When the kids that I've talked to, it's like, well, my friends wanted me to, or I was bored, there's nothing else to do, or I thought it would look cool with some of the graffiti stuff, because some of the graffiti, it is kind of artistic, but it's not an appropriate place to put something. If you want to be artistic, that's not the way to go about it. And it's actually making things look a lot worse when you do that and get yourself in a lot of trouble. But I have had kids say that, well, I just thought it was artistic, which, you know, so there's a lot of different reasons.
Christina, go ahead.
Part of your first question, like what do you think maybe stops them? I personally would say the embarrassment, because how would you like everybody knowing that, you know, you spray painted something and you have to go out there and you're in front of a lot of people cleaning up your mess? I mean, I personally think that would be really embarrassing. That's what I think.
Judge, I'm not sure what you can say about this, but is there anything you think the courts can do to help out? Any way? I don't want you to become a major advocate for the New York State court system here, but is there any, I mean, is there any way things can be done differently, do you think?
Well, I don't see one. Just not from a court system. We're sort of a processing and agency of sorts, and hopefully what judges do is ultimately the appropriate sanction that helps eliminate, if guilty, any future recidivism. But I think it's more a community needing to address or report these acts, or like this group is doing, that perhaps will result in some net result. So I don't pick and choose the cases that appear in Fulton City Court. They arrive on our doorstep, and hopefully we do whatever's appropriate depending on the particular facts of the case. So that's a difficult question.
I know, I'm sorry to throw it to you, but that's my job. A number of communities around the country have started these community courts. I'm not sure how familiar you are with those, but I know Syracuse is just getting into that. Is that something that you think could possibly be effective? That, I don't know if you've read any about those at all.
Oh, there's a movement to address the concerns of the society in the forms of drug courts, domestic violence courts, community courts, and they've been extremely effective in addressing a variety of concerns. And I think that the community court model is a perfectly appropriate way to bring the courts to the people, as opposed to the people of the courts, so that there's more of a rapport. And I think certainly when the court system is more active and more involved, it helps significantly.
Anybody from the audience? Yeah, go ahead.
You talked about how some of these kids say the reason why they engage in vandalism or graffiti or whatever is because they're bored. And so I think that I'm directing this to Kelly and to you guys who are in high school. What is it that we can be doing before they go out and spray paint something to engage them in a place where they're not bored, so they have activities to do? We realize Fulton has not got a lot right at the moment, and we're snowbound most of the winter. But I do see that we need to be doing something for our kids so they don't feel like they need to go out and engage in this other kind of activity.
Right now, I'm working towards starting a teen hangout / skate park, indoor skate park, because believe it or not, there is a very large community of skateboarders in Fulton, and they really want somewhere to skate where they're not going to be vandalizing, where they're not going to be arrested for skateboarding in public. Other things that they could do, that we could do, is make somewhere, or make something that pertains to their interests. Like when it comes to graffiti, we could start like art clubs, public art clubs, for spray painting or doing large murals. I don't know.
Go ahead.
I'd just really like to say, Carrie, thank you for those comments. Because I
I see the work is like short-term and long-term. The short-term is going to be that quick response. But I think what Judge said, and I think Jeff Hogg was talking about, is the long-term is going to probably be slower. It's going to get people to clean up their own areas or get groups to clean up the city and make it look better. That's the it'll be a slow process, but it almost has to go hand in hand, both the quick response and being able to get groups to clean up their own places or whatever. But I just want to share this little bit of story about the park, the skateboard park. I was walking to Eckert's one day, and there were 3 young guys from school with their skateboards, and I was really amazed at their dexterity, because at Misha Nursing Home there is a very steep slope that goes flying off into the street. And I was walking down watching them, and they were very intent in what they were doing. And here I am, gray-haired old lady walking down Eckerd's, But I said, gee, that's pretty neat. And this kid actually was up on this slope, come down here. He was determined to make it down that slope, and it flew into the street. So anyway, I said, gosh, that was really great. And I sort of cheered about it. And I said, boy, I hope someday you'll get that park. And I think the key for me that day that I walked away feeling bad about was, I know that there's a group here even that are working hard to get that park, and it's going to take whatever it takes to get it, and they'll get it probably someday. But it was the kids' attitude that struck me. Their attitude was, we'll never get it. They say we're going to get it, we'll never get it. And I think and that's the way they feel. That's what they really feel, like, oh, it'll never happen. They say it will never happen. So I think maybe all of us really need to get it out more that is coming, to bring some hope to the kids that these things are coming. And I don't know how you do that all the time, but I mean, just even my experience as one person on that street, to encourage them that will come. We will do that for them, So I think it's a short-term and a long-term challenge to do this together.
Marco, I was willing to say this, but skateboarding is not a crime. But I think a skate park would be great, because really a lot of kids do it, and if they could do something like that, it would be awesome.
Well, and it can happen, because it's happened in a number of cities, towns, and villages across central New York. There's a movement underfoot in a number of places, and a number of plans have already been approved. I think a number of skate parks have even been built by now. So if you want it to happen, I think it can happen.
Yeah, one of the things I think to kind of go along with what we're talking about here, when we first got together as the subcommittee for, to prevent vandalism, we talked about, let's get the quick response team going, let's get out, and the QRT wrap, I have to tell you, is part of our presentation, which we've done one presentation to the 6th graders at Fairgrave Elementary, and we'll be going around to the rest of the elementary schools to do that presentation, to educate kids about vandalism. So that's one part, and that we started with that, and with the public forum, getting the information out to everybody. But one of the things that we did talk about as a long-term goal was, let's find some other things in Fulton for kids to do. So that's certainly part, and these guys on the subcommittee is invaluable, because they know what the kids want, rather than us old people trying to figure it out. So.
As a city, we looked at recreational areas on the east side. We know we have a lot of recreational areas on the west side. On each side, it's been 2 or 3 years, we have an excellent plan for Van Buren Park, to have a skate park there, to have other recreational activities other than softball, baseball, soccer, that type of activity. We're looking at a skate park, bicycling, jogging, that type of thing. We had applied for a grant. Unfortunately, the grant was turned down. So we have some definite plans, and we hope to have something within a couple of years. So don't give up on this skate park.
To answer the lady's question in the back, Emily has the answer to that.
A very dedicated volunteer in our community is Sandy Weston. She is the one that's been working very hard at getting a park that would include sports fields and skate parks on the east side of Van Buren Park. It would be an outdoor skate park. What I'm trying to work towards is an indoor skate park where teens can hang out. It's a safe place. They won't be getting in trouble for doing their interests. And I would encourage that when it is built, they could express their talents, whether it's spray painting, because they are pretty good at spray painting our community. They could spray paint the skate park. It'd be something that's their own. It's a safe place. They won't get arrested for skateboarding or whatever. The skate park that we used to have was at Black Clawson. It was closed down because of vandalism. People had left their property, such as ramps, and they were ruined. A wall was also ruined at Black Clawson, and we still don't know why.
The way we're getting everybody, and well, kind of everybody in our community to help us work towards this goal is Emily and I have been hanging up little flyers in the hallways saying, if you want to help with the skate park, come talk to Emily Green. And there's just ways that they can contact her. I don't know if anyone has, but we've been trying for a while. We didn't just think of it overnight. It's been something that we've been trying to do for a while. Community Vision has been, a year or something? Yeah, it's going on 2 years. Actually, we've been together for a while, and all of a sudden we're just famous. We have all these little conferences all the time. It's pretty cool. But there's just, I don't know. We're trying to get the word out, but we don't want to overwhelm people all at once. So I think that would be a short-term goal, and then our long-term goal is fulfilling our plans, which we are going to do.
How big a problem is people skateboarding in places they're not supposed to be in, businesses in and around, business owners not wanting them? I don't know who's best to answer that one. I've seen it in other communities. I know that a lot of business owners get concerned about it.
It is a problem. It was specifically a problem to the extent where there's some local legislation where we have basically a prohibited area, which is our downtown area, for a few reasons. One reason because of vandalism with the very ornate and expensive benches downtown being used as ramps. And there was a lot of damage to the ramps and some other things. And I know Jeff showed me the bill on some of that damage. It was getting quite high. And part of it is a safety issue, that we have a lot of pedestrian traffic in the downtown area, and an increased elderly population. And the last thing that we want to see is somebody getting bumped into coming out of the store while a skateboarder is going by. So there is a prohibited area downtown. It was not unusual for us to hear complaints from merchants, business owners, that they did not want the skateboarders on their property that may have been causing damage to their property. But I think the skateboard park is an excellent idea to give the kids a place to actually go to, a place that's constructed specifically for skateboarding, not trying to make a parking lot work or curbing work for skateboarding.
Jeff, why is it important to have a quick response to vandalism? Why is it important when there is graffiti, when there is vandalism, to get out there and get rid of it as soon as possible?
Well, really, when we got started, we took the students on a tour of Fulton parks. We took a bus trip, and we went from park to park, and we have about 12 city parks. And we were trying to figure out where we could begin with Community Vision 2005, what would be a project that they would like to take on. And what was interesting is instead of actually talking about a project, when we got back, one of the things that really struck everyone who was on the bus tour, from student to adult, we run from ages 14 to about 83 in the Community Vision, was the amount of damage that had been done to the different parks, from water fountains being used as ashtrays, from porta potties being tipped over, from fences being broken, looked like from cars. And immediately the students turned and said, why isn't this cleaned up? Why hasn't this been fixed? And some things obviously would need a lot of work. They need to be replaced, repaired. Downtown, a lot of our benches have been damaged. A lot of the memorial plaques that were put on in memory of people to help us support some, sort of make some additional improvements downtown. We raised money through $100 memorial plaques, and we purchased banners and some different things for downtown. We had 21 plaques, and 18 were removed. And what we thought was vandalism, or looks like simple vandalism to you and I, was actually a desecration to a lot of the people who gave the money, because they gave it in memory of some loved one, and it was something that was very deep to them, and all of a sudden this plaque was now missing, and they took it very, very personally. And it took us a long time as a municipality to regroup, re-raise the money, justify putting another plaque on. It took about 4 months, and it became very apparent as we talked about the reaction that we had to seeing all this damage at these different places, the memorial plaques, was that the best way to encounter vandalism is that if you respond very quickly, even though that might not be the finished product, but when someone strikes you, you strike back by repainting that. You replace that window. You replace that broken spindle, because what we find, and I think that you've seen it in studies, that if you grow up in trash, that's what you begin to know. You live what you see, you live what you know. And our feeling was, you know what, if you're going to keep doing that to us, we're going to keep fixing it. And one of us is going to win, and it's not going to be you. You break it, we'll keep fixing it. And we'll fix it quickly. And that's really that's the whole feeling behind quick response. That seems to be, from the different websites we've gone on, that seems to work nationally. So we're going to try it.
Christina?
When we first started, we came up with a slogan, but it was dream, believe, succeed, make Fulton's future a reality. All together, our whole school voted, and that's what we wanted. The quick response team basically is fulfilling that. I mean, if someone goes out and spray paints, obviously we don't dream of our Fulton being trashy, so like everyone says it is. So we make our dreams like reality by fixing stuff, rebuilding stuff. That's what I think quick response team comes in like.
Sounds pretty good, Christina. Anybody else in the audience? Any questions, comments, concerns? Yeah.
I had a couple questions. First, for the students, Joe, freshman, what are your goals for next year?
All right, I'll start.
Christina wants to be a reporter.
Yeah, I do actually. When I get older, I plan on going to college, becoming a reporter. But I also, in 2005, I'll be graduating. We want to see this through. I know I'm going to stick with NAC Vision 2005, everything. That, because I personally, I want to see, everybody's like, as soon as I'm like 20 or whatever, I'm getting out of here. Fulton sucks, But basically, I don't think that I really want to leave because it's nice, and I want to maybe have my kids grow up here, and I want them to see what I did. I want them to appreciate what all of us have been through and how we are fixing the community.
That's, before the next person answers, I just want to say that it's very admirable what you say, but don't worry that your friends say that, because I think everybody growing up, no matter what town you grew up in, kids said it when I grew up just north of Buffalo, and everybody's, I got to get out of here. So, don't dwell on that too much.
I think by the time I graduate, I want to see that vandalism in Fulton has stopped, which is, it might not stop, but at least is lessened by our effort here. I mean, if people start seeing that if they vandalize, it's going to be cleaned up, maybe they won't vandalize because, it won't be there for long.
When I get out of high school, I plan to go to a technological college and study astrophysics or something having to do with astronomy. I know I'm probably going to be staying with community vision for a long time. Fulton has a future, I think, and we can probably start off and achieve our plans for the future.
Another question?
I know there's a big push in school district about character college. How are the school district teaching right and wrong? Like how are they specifically going to ask telling students this is bad, this is good? Or are they focused on character and how the morals are applied?
Questions about character for those who didn't hear it. How do we teach what is right and what is wrong inside schools? Bill?
I think that character education is part of it. I think that we need to go back and look at that, and we do have character education built into our programs. We have parenting programs. We have things that school today is not just reading, writing, and arithmetic. It is dealing with the students and dealing with things that the parenting skills and the character skills that they need. Hopefully, a lot of our students, get this all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Unfortunately, some of them don't. So the school district picks up on that, and we have to supply those skills to the students, and we're doing that.
Anybody else? Okay. Well, if nobody has any more questions, I think, Jerry, do you want to say anything?
No, I just want to thank the schools for their hard work.
Oh, well, so do I. And
They really work hard, and I think they deserve a big hand of applause from everybody. One more thing, I want to thank you for coming again. We love you here, you know that.
It's my pleasure, and you know that. I wish that I was as involved and as committed as these students were when I was a freshman. It is it's amazing to see. So you all three should be very proud of yourselves, and anybody who's part of this team. Thank you for inviting me tonight. Thank you all for coming. I think we talked about a few interesting things, and at least if we didn't come up with an idea, we at least generated some more momentum for this skate park, because it was an idea from before. So thank you to our panelists, and thank you for everyone coming.
One more thing. I'd like to present you with this honorary QRT T-shirt.
Great.
So you're a QRT member.
Well, thank you very much. You realize this just means, though, that when I spill something in the kitchen now, my fiance says, pick it up right away because you have the quick response team T-shirt on. Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, could I just a couple things I would just like to say. There's three people who are here who are not up here, who have been a real vital part of this whole process, and that would be Jerry Hogan-Sparrow, of course. Chief Mark Spahn has been wonderful, and Sandy Weston, wherever she may be hiding, oh, there she is, has also just done a very wonderful job. We do have some, There's some information outside. Please, take some. There's some from the Community Task Force. There's some from
Community Vision.
Community Vision. There's an exit survey in your program. Please take a couple minutes to fill that out so that we can try to do the best we can with this. And there was one other thing. Oh, we'd just like to ask anybody to volunteer again to become part of the subcommittee. It's great. We have a lot of fun. Or to become part of the QRT. We're gearing up for the spring, getting ready to go out and do some cleaning up and stuff like that. That'll be fun, I guess.
It will.
Okay, it'll be fun. Or for the Community Task Force. We would always like new members. So thank everybody for coming.